Hi everyone, this is Lisa from the Rhinestone world, and in this video I'm going to show you how to do a knockout design in 3 different ways. The first way will be our basic knockout. The second way will be a knockout with an offset spacing, meaning a little bit of gap between the colors, and then the third one will be an offset with the rhinestone outline. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I have my little anchor over here. That will be the shape that I knock out of my design. And I'm going to start typing out the text that I'm going to be using. So the key when you do a knockout design is that you want your text to have a very large area. You want it to take up a lot of space because that is basically the canvas that your shape is using to be knocked out. So I'm going to go over here, type out, and I'm going to choose impact font. So we have impact, and then I'm going to bring this a little bit larger. So I'm just going to use this little box to scale it up. And then up in the top left corner is your fill panel. I'm just going to go ahead and fill this in a color. So I have beach, and I want to do vibes for the bottom. So I'm going to hold down the Alt button, click and drag. So the Alt button is a quick way to make a duplicate in Silhouette Studio. You know you're doing that because your cursor will change to a plus sign. So let's double click on there to get back to text edit mode. Control A to select all of that, and then I'm going to do vibes for here. So I have beach vibes, and you can see that my text is not all the way over. So there's a couple things that you can do. You can go over here and just scale it up, or sometimes you can even convert it to an object and then do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this up, and I want the spacing to be really close. So I'm just using my arrows to adjust. So that is the base, how I want my design to be. So what I need to do now is I need to combine those words together to make it one object. And I want to take it out of text mode. I want them to be shapes instead of text. So I'm going to grab both of these together and do Control E. So now this is a compound path, meaning I have multiple shapes, but they're being combined into a compound shape or a compound path. So let's go ahead and scale this up. I want this to be a pretty big design, so I'm going to bring it up and do it, I don't know, maybe like a little over 9 inches wide. So now we're going to bring our shape on top. So you'll notice right here my anchor is showing up behind my design. That's totally fine. We're just going to right click and we're going to bring it to front. So now when I bring it up, you'll see that it shows up on top of my text. So let's go ahead and I'm going to scale this up to make it larger. And the key with making your knockout design is that you want the edges of your design to show up within your text. So if you look right here, I have my little anchor there and I have the sides here. Because the text is what your shape will show up in. So if your edges are not within your text, then it won't define the edges of your design, so you kind of lose a little bit of the detail, a little bit more than what you would lose by just doing a basic knockout. So I rotated this just a little bit. I used that green arrow up here to do the rotate, and I'm just scaling this up to give it a good look on my design, but also ensuring that it's still going to show up. So I'm happy with this here. Let's go ahead and I'm going to grab this whole thing, and here's the key part with the knockout design is that you are going to do 2 modifications and combine how they work. So what we need to do is grab this whole design. I'm going to do my Alt button, click and drag, and I made a copy, okay? And what I like to do when I do stuff like this is to make an extra copy no matter what, just in case. So when we do our knockout, it's a combination of crop and subtract. So this first one, we're going to select both of our text and we're going to go over to our modify panel over here. So what we're wanting to do now is we want to take the words and make only the parts that overlap with my anchor appear. We're going to crop down my text to the shape of the anchor. So we'll go right here to our modify panel and click crop. And you can see now they're down to the shape of the anchor, but if you look closely, you'll see a little box around each section. Whenever you do a modify that will break apart a shape, whether it's a crop or subtract, it actually will break apart every part of that shape as well. So I'm going to go right here and do a Control E, and I made that a compound path. And I'm just going to fill this in with my blue to make it easier to differentiate. So there's part 1, that is my crop. Now let's bring this over. So this is going to be my subtract. So I have both of these set up. Now you can see from my anchor, I've already cropped my text to be the shape of the anchor. I don't need any more than that. So I'm going to go over here and get rid of that spot. So let's go right here, go to subtract. And you can see that it took it out from here. And I'm going to do Control E again to put that together. Now, sometimes when you do this, you'll notice that it only takes it out of one word in here. That is because your words are not grouped together and they're not made a compound path. So make sure when you do that, your words are grouped or made a compound path because they need to be treated as one object for that step. And then we can bring our anchor back, and then let me go over here, zoom in. And now all we have to do is use our arrow keys to nudge this into place. And because we did this exactly the right size, it's basically going to go right into that spot. So there's our first knockout. That's how you do the basic knockout design. So you'll notice with stuff like this, especially if you're doing heat transfer vinyl, whenever you make your vinyl colors right next to each other, you run the risk of showing your shirt through because they're shrinking. And the other risk is that it's maybe not as defined. When you design with vinyl, a lot of the designing, a lot that can go a long way is doing an offset, doing spacing between your colors. So let's go ahead and do another knockout design. This is going to be our offset knockout. Excuse me. And so what we're going to do is our first step, we're going to crop just like the beginning. So every time you do a knockout, the first step is always the same, the crop. So there's my crop. Let's go ahead and make it a compound path. And let's change the color. Great. So we have this part done. And now let's bring this over again. And like I said, I'm just making a duplicate and bringing that into my workspace. So this is the part where we subtract out from the bottom what the top is, okay? So right now the top part is our main shape, but we need what to be subtracted out is to be a little bit larger than our main shape. So we need to do an offset. So let's go right here to our first shape, and we're gonna open up our offset panel over here on the right side, and that is our star with the outline around it. And we have it right here. Now let's go to offset, and then our default distance is 0.125. I'm actually going to bring it a little bit smaller. I'm going to do about 0.08. Hit enter to preview so you can see a little bit that line around there. Good. And then hit apply to set my offset. So let's move this anchor out of the way, and I'm going to fill in the offset so you can see it. Okay. So now you can see I made a bigger one of here. Now grab both shapes again, and then we're just going to do the same process. We're going to go to our modify panel, subtract, and then again do Control E to put that back together. And now when we bring our shape, I'm going to zoom in. This is my select zoom tool. Now I can use my arrow keys, bring this back, and now when we have our shape, you can see we have a little bit more definition between that. So if you were to do this, let's say on a black shirt, then we can go over here. I'm just going to draw a rectangle to show you what's happening. And let's change that black, right click, send to back. So now you can see you have a little bit more definition between that as opposed to doing something like that. All right, so that is our second knockout design. So let me go ahead, I'm going to group that together, move that to the side, and we're going to do our third knockout design. So this one combines steps for the first two that we did. So what we did is we did our basic crop and subtract, and then we wanted to add space. So we did a crop, then an offset, then subtract. So when we do rhinestones, we are combining all of those and just adding one more step to that as well. So let's go ahead and get step one done. We're going to grab both of these, do crop, cool, there's our shape, Control E, make it a compound path, and change color. Great. So that's the first part, always the same. So let's go ahead and make a duplicate of this. And what we're going to do is we need to create enough space in this design to define the colors, but also for our rhinestones to fit in. So we need to create an offset to make the space, but then we need to create an offset to place our rhinestones in a line. So let's go ahead and get started. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the offset panel and build offsets off of each other. Now with rhinestones, the width of a rhinestone is about 0.130 inches wide. They're actually a little bit smaller. So whenever you place rhinestones on a line, the rhinestones get placed right in the center of the line. Okay, so on either side of your rhinestone, you're going to have about 0.08 on each side. So what we need to do when we make our lines is we need to account for that distance. So the first offset off of our shape is going to be for our line of rhinestones. So we'll do offset, and we're going to put in a distance of 0.09, hit enter, and then apply. So what this is going to do is this is going to put our rhinestones really close to our original shape, but it won't overlap. Rhinestones cannot be placed on vinyl, they won't stay. So what we're doing is we're putting it really close and making sure that it doesn't overlap. Now for our next offset, we are going to create another one. But if you notice, the first offset that we created is still selected. So we're going to use the same concept of doing 0.09 between the stones and the vinyl, but we're going to apply it the opposite way. So that's going to be with the outside. So when you create your first offset, don't click off of it. Keep it selected. Let's go to offset again, and then we'll type in 0.09, hit enter to preview it, and then hit apply. So it looks confusing, especially with the color I put in the bottom. So my first offset is still selected, so I'm going to change that color to purple. So now you can kind of see it. Now we're going to carry through with the steps that we did before, okay? So we're going to take our outside offset, the furthest distance, and we're going to hold down shift and click on the back text, okay? So now we have our biggest offset selected and our back text selected. And we need to do, just like before, we're going to do a subtract. So let's do subtract. Now you can see it's taken out and the background is still selected, so we'll do Control E. And just like before, we don't need this anchor because we've already done our crop. So let's go ahead, grab this anchor, put it back in place, and let's zoom in so we can see it. So we just want to kind of use our arrow tools to check where they are. Okay, so we're almost done. So now you can see we have a line around it. So we're just going to click on this line here, and we're going to go to our Rhinestone panel. So the Rhinestone panel is available in Silhouette Studio, Designer Edition, and Up. So if you don't have the upgrade, you can buy one from our website at therhinestoneworld.com. So we're just going to go over here, and we have our different rhinestone fills. There's a whole bunch of different things that go with the rhinestone panel. We do have a book available on it on our website as well. So if you do want to learn more about rhinestones, just go to therhinestoneworld.com and look up Rhinestones Made Easy. But you can see we have our fills here, and I'm just going to choose edge, which is going to convert that line over to stones. So let's do edge. So now you can see we have our little rhinestones in there, and let's color them like a little gray so you can see it. So now we have our rhinestones, and if I zoom in, you'll notice that they are not overlapping. They're perfectly spaced within here. So that is how we do our knockout design, and we have 3 different ways of doing it. So let me go ahead and group these together and show you the difference. So we have 1, our basic knockout, which is just the colors next to each other. Then we have 2, our knockout with the offset, and then 3, we have knockout with rhinestones. So all of these use basic concepts with the modify panel. We're just doing crops and subtracts, and then whenever we need to create space, we're also adding in an offset. So if you have any more questions on this, you can comment below or email us at info@therhinestoneworld.com. And if you'd like to see a lot more design and training videos like this, check out our interactive training portion of our website. We offer free and premium webinars that come with written guides for all the designs that we make.
Hey everyone, if you like this video, make sure you subscribe below so you don't miss any tutorials or project ideas.